Alright, Assault X-1 Nano Raider. This is it with its business armour on. You'll see it without the skin in a sec, so you'll actually be able to see what's going on here, because it's got no interior cabin as such. It's just a complete box of tricks that's now covered up with some light armour around the edges and some heavy armour on the nose. So that's a refinery and some heavy armour. The refinery's 4 long, so I wanted a ship that was 5 wide. So that's my little cockpit tucked down there behind an armoured block. Set up so that I can control the welders that repair the refinery on the front. It's basically a hydrogen run ship with the batteries just running the shield and the welders, and the hydrogen running the engines, and the boxes of parts doing the regeneration for my armoured shield on the nose. That's how it generally works. So it's got small grid and large grid. So there's the rotor back there just behind the cockpit, and then that comes back, has a landing foot, has the small connector, has just some small gadgets that aren't worth building the oversized large ones of, like those. It's good to have some small grid when you need it. It's got some small grid build and repair, which are the actual repair systems apart from the welders for the ship. And in the guts there are some large grid build and repair. So, quick George Lucas iris, and this is it in the field. Basically I've just cruised up to this frontier outpost and to test this system out before I'd even put the skin on. And the first thing that these dummy industries build and repairs do is they're set to grind guns down to disable. So once I drop that sort of box outline over them, I'm grinding their guns down to disable. So there's a refinery and armour on the nose. There's twin welders right behind it, and those welders will still get hit by the area effect of missiles. So there's a third welder set back behind them, which welds the welders back together. And wrapped all around them is the aforementioned dummy industries build and repair. So those large grid ones are in charge of grinding, and you can see the blue sparkles going out and grinding this base. And the grey box is their area of effect. So the number 2 key switches that on and off. So I just use it for targeting basically. If they're inside that box, they're getting ground. If my refinery is facing them, then I've got my armour defense. So they're my 2 key things. I want to be facing my armoured refinery at them, and I want to be enclosing them in that targeting box of grindage. So these grinders are set initially just to grind guns down to disable, and then I hit number 6 and it flicks them to just general grinding mode, and they tear the base to bits and give me all these goodies. Got some drills that were in there. Those superconductors would be a part of the yield modules on the refinery that got torn down. In my personal inventory you can see some uranium, you can see some ammo from all the guns that I've torn down first thing. So the grinders pull apart their guns, then their power systems, and then their thrusters, because I want thruster components, and then production modules because I want superconductors. The list after that gets a bit unimportant. The important thing is that the guns get neutralised and maybe their power gets knocked out early. So my cargo containers start to fill up as the grinders slurp away at this base. It's all terribly effective and easy. Armchair warfare. Dirty cheatery, in other words. So in a PvP server you certainly wouldn't want people rolling up at your base and using this Kajiga to grind all your guns off, disable all your guns rapidly. So I was just tinkering with the inventory there, trying to figure out why one of my boxes was offline from the others. I'd actually put it in place next to the refinery, ready so that I could slap some turrets on the sides if I decided I wanted to start using turrets. And then I forgot that I did it. So I was later confused as to why I had a box that wasn't wired into the other boxes. But it wasn't a big issue. There's enough cargo storage on this ship to rip a base like this to bits and carry the base home. So, terribly convenient arrangement. No weapons on this ship per se, but I can just skid up to this frontier outpost, disarm it, and then tear all its good stuff to bits and take it home. So yes, convenience to the borderline of cheatery. But I am tanking. I am getting shot in the face. I'm only able to use my cheaty grinders at this quite short range because I'm doing a relatively vanilla tanking technique with the refinery there. I do have some shield modules, but they're not taking that much of the pounding from the guns. The shields go down and the refinery takes the brunt, but it barely ever gets scratched. The welders just absolutely hammer at keeping it in trim. And of course, as I'm tearing bits off the enemy station, I'm getting cargo bays full of bits which can then be pumped through the welders and used to repair the damage done. So slurping my repair components back off my enemy. It's terribly convenient. So yes, button 1 is just switching these grinders off and on. They use power. Button 2 is switching this area of effect box that I use for targeting off and on, because you don't want that in front of your face the whole time you're flying along. Then I've just got my connector dock, the power for the 3 welders because they draw power. Got to make sure that's on when you go into a fight. The switch lock for the foot. Then number 6 is whether or not my grinders are only disabling or whether they're doing the full grind. So that's now off because I'm stripping the base down. The guns are gone. Then it's tanks on and off, battery, auto recharge, tanks stockpile on and off. Got some other things on another tab, but they're the primary controls for this particular ship. You just go zipping up to the edge of their range, turn your welders on, make sure you're in disable mode, turn this targeting box on, then go thundering into range, get shot in the face a bunch, get that box over their base, and then get shot in the face some more, and then their guns start disappearing and you get shot in the face less and less and less, and then their guns disappear and you're not getting shot in the face at all, and it's all good. You can grind down their base and take it home. I've got uranium ingots from their reactor, I've got a ton of ammo there from all their guns I've broken down, superconductors from the yield boosters on their refinery, all sorts of goodies, a little bit of ice from their things, and just a nice smattering of bits to take home to Moonbase. Keep things going. Leisurely armchair warfare. So you can see that a bit more of the inner detail of the ship without the skin. So you can see the small grid section of the ship at the back there, which is just a landing foot, the connector, a few medium cargo containers, a few small grid nanos that do the repairing that the welders aren't doing, omnidirectional repairing around the ship, keeping the camera on the front armour working, that kind of thing. The gyro's tacked straight onto the back of the cockpit there. So the finished ship, as you saw, there's just a little window in the roof where you can see through into the cockpit. And I added a couple of fuel tanks, but there was no sort of taxing fuel issue. 64% fuel at this point, didn't bother landing, just hovering, ripping this base to bits, testing out what sort of range this thing had. Very much a shakedown cruise, as you can see, since I didn't bother to put a skin on it before testing it out. So yes, extended its fuel capacity, added I think 2 more shield generators, so it's yet more tanky, and I gave it a light armour half block skin. All the armour that's on it at this point is all heavy armour for doing sort of nose tanking shenanigans, whereas the half panels of the skin I put on later was just light armour. Any brief attacks from passing ships or something from the side can be absorbed by the shield and the light armour. It's the nose that's there to deliberately tank any approaching nasty until I can disable them. So yes, that's the paralysing, fiendish cheatery of the Assault X-1. It's a bit of a brute. You wouldn't want it on your PvP server, rocking up and disabling all your guns and destroying things. I don't know how many PvP servers would use the Dummy Industries build and repair system anyway, but I know I can't live without it, so. But I don't necessarily have to abuse it in this way. But my contention is that it's got at the absolute maximum a 300 meter range, which is half the range of every other weapon in the game. So it comes down to having some pretty solid tanking abilities if you're going to use this as a weapon. And I don't know, in that respect it's not seriously less cheaty than just hovering back a million miles away and sniping, is it?